Hello, everybody. Hope you're all safe and secure. Welcome to the Priyanka Neela Krishnan Show, episode 14. A label is not a lock. And yes, today's topic is data classification is the lie your stack runs on and what actually replaces it. I want to say something that is going to sound like hearsay to a lot of security teams. Data classification, the thing your company has spent years and probably a small fortune on, is mostly a lie. Not because labeling is a bad idea, but because of what we quietly convinced ourselves a label does. We told ourselves that once a file is labeled, it is somehow protected, but it is not. A label is not a lock. I am Priyanka Neela Krishnan. This is Enterprise Security, episode 14, and today I want to take apart the most comfortable assumption in data security and show you what actually replaces it. Fair warning, I built data loss prevention products for decades, so this one is personal. Well, let me start with the promise we all bought because it is genuinely seductive. It looked alright at right on the whiteboard, or it's all good, it's theoretically very nice. Like step one, you sort every file in the company into a tier: public, internal, confidential, restricted. Clean, simple, four buckets. And step two, every control downstream keys off that tier. Your data loss prevention tool enforces based on the label. Your access policies key off it. And now your AI governance keys off it too. So, the entire security stack, 20 years of tooling, sits on top of one foundational assumption that the labels are there and that they are right. Clean theory. There is just one problem: it does not work and it fails in three separate places. So let me walk you through each. Failure number one: we asked humans to do it. Picture the actual moment of classification. An employee is in the middle of finishing something, they are under, let's say, a deadline, and a pop up appears asking them to classify the document. What do? They click whatever makes the box disappear the fastest. Not maliciously, they just have a job to do, and the label is friction. Now, multiply that single moment across every file, every employee, every single day for years. That is your classification program. And the results show it. In a typical company, fewer than 15% of documents end up with any label at all. Around 80% of enterprise data is unstructured and never got cleanly tagged. And the labels that do exist are widely inconsistent, often just wrong. Manual, user driven classification does not scale. It never did. We just did not want to admit it. Failure 2: even the labels you do have are brittle. Three quick ways they betray you. First, labels do not inherit. You mark a SharePoint site as confidential and feel good about it. Yeah, I've marked it confidential and you feel good about it. But that label does not flow down to the individual files inside it. The container is marked, the contents are wide open. You see the point? Second, labels do not travel. You apply a restricted label to a document, but the moment someone with access downloads it and moves it somewhere else, that label's enforcement often just evaporates. It's not attached to the document anymore. The protection was tied to the system and not the file. And number three, Most of your data was never structured to begin with. Roughly 80% of it is unstructured: the chats, the notes, the screenshots, the random spreadsheets, and none of that ever fit neatly into your 4-tier schema. So the foundation is not just incomplete, it is fragile even where it does exist. Now, at this point, a lot of people say, fine, humans are the problem, so just automate it. Let the machine classify everything. And I agree that is the right direction, but I want to be honest about its limits. Because over-promising here is exactly how you end up with a false sense of safety. 3 things. 1. A lot of automated classification is still just regex and pattern matching. It finds things shaped like a credit card number, but your real sensitive data is messy and unstructured, and it rarely looks that tidy and neat. Number 2, machine learning approaches are better, but they still guess and they still mislabel edge cases. When the false positives pile up, your analysts get alert fatigue and start ignoring the flags, including the ones that matter. And number 3, this is the deep one. Sensitivity is not a fixed property. The exact same file can be completely harmless in one context and a serious breach in another. A static label applied once goes stale the moment the business changes around it. Context matters, perspective matters. So, automation helps, it is necessary, but it is not the magic wand. And here is the part I most want you to take away. Because even if you fixed all 3 of those failures, even if you had perfect labels on, let's say, every file, you would still have the core problem. A label is not a control. Let me show you what I mean. Your scanner runs, it correctly tags 10,000 files as containing like the PII. The dashboard lights up green. The CISO sees the green check mark and exhales. Finally, we have visibility. And not one of those 10,000 files is any safer than it was an hour ago. Nothing was encrypted, nothing was locked down, no access was changed. All that happened is that you now know where the risk is. Classification tells you what to protect. It does not do the protecting. The label is a sticky note and not a vault. This is the category error sitting at the center of most data security programs. We confuse knowing with protecting, and we let the green dashboard tell us we are safe, when all it is really told us is where we are exposed. Now, for years, you could get away with this. Weak classification was quite a liability that mostly nobody noticed because nobody was actually going through all those files. And then we connected AI to everything. And here is the thing about an AI assistant. It operates on access reality, not on policy intention. It does not care what you labeled. It does not even see your labels. If a file is reachable, the assistant can find it and surface it, classified or not, tagged or not. So your beautiful 4-tier scheme, the org chart of sensitivity you spent years building, is completely invisible to a copilot that just reads whatever it can reach. The gap between what you carefully labeled and what is actually reachable, that gap was always there. AI just turned it into your live attack surface. So, if classification is not the answer, what is? You stop treating the label as the finish line and you start treating it as one input into something bigger. 4 shifts. First, automate the classification and keep it running. Let AI classify by content and context, not humans, clicking pop ups and not regex alone. And do it continuously, not as a once a year scan, because your data changes every day. And second, read context, not just content. The question is not only what is this file, but who can reach it, where does it flow, and how is it actually used. Sensitivity is a relationship and not a stamp. Number 3, and this is the one that fixes the core lie: wire every label into an action. A label has to trigger a real control, encrypt it, restrict access, quarantine it. If the label does not change what actually happens to the file, it is theater. And fourth, make the protection travel with the data. The control should follow the file, not sit with the folder. If your security stays behind the moment the data moves, then you never really had security. Let me give you the mental model to carry out this. So, classification was only ever step 1 of 4. Think of it as a loop. Discover, find your sensitive data everywhere it actually lives. Understand, map the context, the access, how it flows, and then protect. Apply real controls tied to the actual risk and prove. Show continuously that those controls are holding to your auditors and to yourselves. Discover, understand, protect, prove. On a loop, forever, because the data never stops moving. And here is the uncomfortable truth. The label, the thing entire teams obsess over, the thing vendors sell whole platforms around, is just one task inside that very first step: discover. Most programs do step 1, see a green dashboard, and declare victory. The real security was always in the other 3. So, let me bring it home. The whole lesson of this episode fits in one sentence. Knowing what to protect is not the same as protecting it. Classification is not useless. I want to be clear about that. It is genuinely step 1. The problem is we dressed it up as the whole job. The label tells you where the risk lives. It has never once reduced that risk. The actual lock is the encryption, the access control, the enforcement that the label was always supposed to trigger, and in most companies quietly never does. So here's your one question to take into work. For your most sensitive data, what does the label actually do? Walk it through. The file is label restricted, and then what happens? If the honest answer is nothing, then you do not have a labeling problem. You have a posture problem, and now you know where to look. Discovery is a means, protection is the point. I am Priyanka Neela Krishnan, and if this was useful, please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. By the way, everything here is my own opinion and analysis, not tied to or representing any employer. See you then. Thanks.